Have you ever noticed there are nights when you lie down early, your body completely exhausted, your eyes heavy, and yet sleep just doesn't come? Your eyes are closed, but your mind is wide open, open to worries, memories, regrets, unfinished thoughts. And instead of resting, you find yourself drifting in an invisible current, swept away by everything you can't control. Have you ever asked yourself, if I'm this tired, why can't I sleep? Let me offer a perspective that might surprise you. Sleep, at its core, is an act of faith. It may sound strange at first, but think about it. When you go to sleep, you're letting go of everything. You set down your phone, your to-do list, your responsibilities, your control. You surrender the steering wheel of your life for a few hours and whisper, in some quiet way, I trust that things will be okay while I rest. Isn't that trust? Trust that the world will keep turning without you. That life doesn't need your constant worry to keep running. That you don't have to hold it all together just to prove you care. Sleep isn't giving up. It's a wise kind of surrender. I remember an older Buddhist woman who came to see me after many sleepless nights. She told me, I've tried everything, sleep aids, herbal teas, calming music, but the moment I lie down, my mind runs like a wild horse. I asked her gently, have you tried? Trusting? She looked puzzled. Trusting who? I smiled and said, trusting life. Trusting that when you exhale and let go, the world won't fall apart, that you don't have to carry everything, every hour of every day. And maybe that's something many of us struggle with, especially later in life. We carry so much. Responsibilities as parents, financial stress, concerns about our health, our children, an uncertain future. We fear that if we rest, everything will slip away. We forget life was never fully in our hands to begin with. The Buddha once said, let go of what does not belong to you. And here's the paradox. Most of what keeps us awake was never really ours to carry. We can't control other people. We can't change the past. We can't predict the future. But we can choose to rest. We can choose to believe that if this body is nourished, the heart will slowly settle too. I want you to picture this. You're standing by a riverbank. In your hands is a heavy bag of stones, your worries, your regrets, your sense of not being enough. And to swim across, you have to let go of that bag. That's what Sleep Island. It's the river. And surrender is what carries you to the other side where peace and healing live. You don't need to try harder to sleep. Sleep doesn't come from effort. It comes from release, like a lotus that opens at dusk, or water that flows when the mountain yields. And even science agrees. When you breathe deeply and slowly, your parasympathetic nervous system activates. It tells your body, you're safe now. You can rest. So tonight, before you lie down, I invite you to try something very simple. Close your eyes. Place a hand over your heart and say softly to yourself, I have done enough. I give myself permission to rest. I trust that all will be well while I sleep. It might sound silly, but often it's the simplest things that open the door to peace. Sleep is a gift, an offering, and a kind of trust. Trust that you are worthy of rest, that no one needs you to be perfect to deserve peace, that when you close your eyes, you're saying to life, I don't control it all, and that's okay. So don't treat sleep like an enemy. Treat it like an old friend waiting for you to soften, to let go, to receive its quiet grace. There's so much we haven't finished yet. But as the Buddha taught, perfection is not found in the absence of problems, but in a heart no longer bound by them. Have you ever experienced this? You're lying in bed, eyes closed, lights off. Everything around you is still and silent, but inside, you're wide awake. Your mind is racing like traffic on a freeway at 2 a.m., no lights, no signs, no exit in sight. You whisper to yourself, "I need to sleep. I really need to fall asleep." But the more you try, the more awake you feel. I know that feeling, not just because I've been through it myself, but because I've heard it from so many others, especially older folks. They tell me, "My body wants to rest, but my mind just won't stop." And I often respond with something simple: when the mind won't listen, let the body lead. You see, in Buddhist teachings, body, speech, and mind are the three gateways to practice. But when it comes to sleep, especially when anxiety takes over, the body is often the most accessible doorway. We can begin by returning to the body gently, part by part, like coming home. This practice is called a mindful body scan. It's not mystical or complicated. It's simply the art of bringing your attention to each part of your body, one at a time, helping the mind return to the present moment where peace is always waiting. I want you to imagine this. You're the last candle keeper in an ancient monastery. It's late, and you're walking through each room, up the stairs, down the halls, turning off the lights, one by one. No rush, no force. Each step is a soft whisper. It's time to rest. The body scan is just like that. You start at your feet, slowly moving up toward your head. At each stop, you pause and silently tell your body, "Thank you. You can let go now." A Buddhist woman once told me she hadn't slept well for years because of stress, aging, and a restless mind. One night, she heard a simple guided meditation that said, "Feel your feet resting on the bedsheet. Let them soften. Let them be light." And she cried, not from insomnia, but because, for the first time in years, someone reminded her that her feet, her hard-working feet, deserved rest too. She realized, "I've cared for everyone else, but never paused to notice how tired my body has become." Are you like that too? Sometimes, just by coming back to the body, the mind begins to soften. I remember a man in his 52nd who came to a retreat and told me, "I can't meditate. My mind is too chaotic." I didn't ask him to sit longer or focus harder. I just invited him to place his hand over his belly and feel his breath like gentle waves touching the shore. I said, "Don't force anything. Just be with your body the way you'd sit with an old friend. No need to talk. Just be there." And the beautiful part? After a few nights of practicing the body scan, he said, "For the first time in 20 years, I fell asleep without pills." You see, we often think healing requires something big or dramatic. But the body, if we learn to listen, knows how to heal itself. Even science confirms this. A mindful body scan activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part that helps us relax, slow the heart, lower blood pressure, and prepare for deep sleep. But more importantly, when you focus on your body, your mind gradually lets go of the stories it's telling. It stops rewinding the past. It stops worrying about the future. It comes back to the only place it ever truly belongs. This moment, this body, right here. Now, I'm not saying a body scan will magically knock you out, but it does something even more powerful. It helps you stop fighting sleep. And that moment when we stop resisting is often when sleep finally comes. So tonight, if you find yourself lying awake, mind buzzing, don't try to shut off your thoughts. Just return to your feet. Feel them resting on the bed. Feel your calves, your belly rising and falling with each breath. Gently, no pressure. And at each part, quietly say to yourself, I soften. I'm safe. I allow myself to rest. Let your body become the boat that carries you home, to that deep peace you've been searching for in all those racing thoughts. Sleep isn't the end. It's the bridge that lets us go on living with a lighter mind, a softer heart, and the quiet truth that I don't need to hold it all together to be at peace. I just need to come home to myself. Have you ever noticed this? We can't force ourselves to fall asleep, just like we can't force a flower to bloom before its time. Sleep, much like meditation, is something we have to invite, never demand. And the more we try, the more anxious we become, the more it slips away. The more we tell ourselves, I have to sleep right now, the tighter our minds become. More alert, more tense. And another night passes with a sigh and tired eyes. I've met so many people, especially after the age of 50, who've shared that they no longer feel in control of their sleep. Some go to bed at 9 p.m., but can't fall asleep until 1 or 2 in the morning. Some drift off, only to wake in the middle of the night with a storm of thoughts they can't turn off. But what troubles them most isn't just the lack of rest, it's the helplessness. The feeling of being unable to manage their own body anymore. Have you ever felt that way? Let me share a small story with you. There's a Buddhist practitioner named Eleanor, in her 72nd. She used to be a nurse, disciplined, punctual, used to structure. When she retired, she thought, finally, I can sleep in. No more alarms, no more shift calls. But ironically, that's when sleep started to escape her. She told me, I lie there, eyes closed, breathing calmly, but my mind keeps shouting, why aren't you asleep yet? What time is it? Hurry up and sleep. And then she laughed bitterly. It feels like I'm arguing with myself. I paused and asked, Eleanor, do you remember the last time you slept deeply? She thought for a moment and said, probably when I was still a nurse, too exhausted to even notice when I drifted off. And I replied, see, back then you weren't trying to sleep. You just let go and sleep arrived. And that's something I want to offer to you, the one watching this right now. Sleep doesn't come because we wrestle it into place. It comes when we soften. When we create space, like opening a door, and let it walk in on its own. In meditation, I often tell beginners, don't try to be still, just show up. And the same principle applies to sleep. Don't try to fall asleep. Try simply being present with your breath, with your body, with the gentle weariness resting in your muscles. No pushing, no fixing. Imagine you're sitting in a quiet garden. Late at night, no phones, no emails, no tasks. And you invite an old friend named Sleep to join you for tea. You don't demand they come. You just prepare the space and wait with trust and tenderness. You invite by softening your inner voice. You invite with a slow, deep breath. You invite by whispering to yourself, there's nothing more I need to do. I've done enough for today. When the mind stops resisting wakefulness, sleep begins to find its way to us. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught, do not dwell on the past. Do not dream of the future. Be fully present in this moment. This is the path to peace. And this truth applies not just to meditation, but to every night we long for rest. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but I've meditated, I've tried breathing, and I'm still awake. I understand, truly, because sleep isn't a result you force after one practice. It's a fruit that ripens from the stillness inside you. You can water a plant every day, but you can't make the flower bloom sooner. You just continue watering with gentleness. So instead of asking, how do I make myself sleep? Try asking, how can I make room for sleep to come without pressuring it? I once met a former engineer, logical, precise, time-bound. He had struggled with insomnia for 10 years, until one day he stopped trying to sleep and started simply sitting with himself. He lit a candle, played soft music, and listened to the beat of his own heart. And then something surprising happened. He said, "When I stopped trying to control it, sleep came to me." That's what I want to leave you with tonight. Instead of forcing sleep, become someone who welcomes it, with trust, with presence, and with the courage to stop pushing. That's all, nothing more. And if tonight, sleep still doesn't arrive, it's okay. As long as you stopped struggling, as long as you showed up, as long as you softened your breath, then you've already begun the journey into rest. You don't need to conquer the night. You just need to invite sleep as a friend and trust that it's already on its way. Have you ever gone to bed and your mind felt like a noisy, cluttered marketplace? The moment you close your eyes, voices start popping up. Do I have a meeting tomorrow? Did I call my son back? Why did I say that to her today? And so you turn to one side, then the other. The bed is soft, the lights are off, but your mind keeps running like you're driving a car with no brakes. I've heard this from so many people, especially those who've carried a lot throughout their lives. When they were younger, they worried about work and family. And now, in their later years, they worry about their health, their children, their grandkids, and even things they've never spoken out loud. One elderly Buddhist woman once shared with me over tea, "I'm not afraid of insomnia. I'm afraid of the feeling of lying down each night like I'm carrying a bag full of stones." I asked her, "Have you ever tried putting that bag down?" She gave a soft, tired laugh. "Put it down where, Bhante? It's all in my head." I told her, "That's okay. If you can't put it down out in the world, then place it on the page." You see, sometimes we don't need someone to solve our problems. We just need a safe place to set them down. And strangely enough, a blank piece of paper can become the softest pillow for a tired mind. I want you to imagine this. It's bedtime. The lights are low. The room is calm. On the table next to you is a small notebook and a pen. Before you crawl into bed, you open it and you write down everything that's weighing on your heart. No need to write beautifully. No need for grammar. Just honesty. Maybe it sounds like, "I'm worried about this month's bills. I'm sad I snapped at my husband today. I don't know if I have the strength to live alone for much longer." That's all. And yet, by writing it down, you're doing something incredibly important. You're telling your heart, "I see you. I acknowledge you. Now, we can rest." It's like carrying a heavy backpack all day. But before bed, instead of dragging it into your dreams, you set it down gently and say, "I'll come back to this in the morning, but tonight, I choose rest." The Buddha once said, "The wise know what to carry and what to lay down." And not every worry has to be solved in the middle of the night. Some things just need to be seen to be quiet. I remember a man named Robert. He lived alone after his wife passed and struggled with sleep for years. I suggested he try writing down the weight in his heart each night before bed. At first, he said, "I'm not the kind of guy who keeps a journal." I told him, "You don't need to write to impress, just write to feel lighter." A week later, he came back with a folded piece of paper. It had short lines, worries about his health, missing his wife, fear of being alone, not knowing what tomorrow might bring. I asked, "Did it help?" He smiled. "I didn't fall asleep instantly, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone in the dark." See, even just pouring your heart out onto paper can soften your mind. And once the mind softens, the body finally gets to rest. Sleep can't enter a mind that's still running. It only comes when we slow down. Some people ask me, but after I write, the worries are still there, aren't they? And I say, yes, but now they're not in your bed with you. Laying them down doesn't mean you're abandoning responsibility. It means you're allowing yourself to rest so you can return to those responsibilities with a steadier heart tomorrow. And scientifically, when you write down your thoughts before bed, the part of your brain that handles emotions slows down. Your nervous system calms, and your body becomes more ready for natural sleep. Spiritually, it's an act of compassion for yourself. It's a gentle way of saying, I see you, my worries, my fears, my what-ifs, but tonight I'm not bringing you into my sleep. So tonight, before you go to bed, just 5 minutes. Open a blank page. Write down everything that keeps repeating in your mind. Then close the journal, softly, like a quiet promise to yourself. I've seen it. I've set it down. Now I choose to rest. You may not fall asleep instantly, but you'll feel lighter, more peaceful, and closer to true rest. And sometimes, that alone is already a miracle. I want you to pause just for a moment, right here, right now, and simply breathe. No need to change anything. Just notice it. You're breathing. And it's strange, isn't it? Breath is always there, but how often do we really pay attention to it? Have you ever noticed when you're stressed, anxious, or angry, your breath gets short, fast, even choppy? But when you're calm, at peace, truly present, your breath becomes slow, soft, like a quiet evening breeze. That's not a coincidence. Your breath and your mind are deeply connected like two sides of the same river. When one shifts, the other naturally follows. That's why I call mindful breathing the golden key. It's not loud. It's not complicated. It doesn't ask you to believe in anything big or spiritual. It just asks one thing, that you show up. An elderly Buddhist woman once told me she often panics at night. As soon as she lies down, her heart races, her hands turn cold, and her mind spirals with questions like, what if I pass away in my sleep? Who would find me? What if my child needs me and I miss the call? I gently asked her, are you breathing right now? She said, well, of course. I smiled and said, no, I mean, are you aware that you're breathing? She paused, and then I shared a simple practice with her. Each night before bed, place a hand on your belly, close your eyes, and just listen to your breath coming in, going out like gentle waves brushing the shore. No counting, no forcing, just following the breath like walking with an old friend. A week later, she came back and said, I don't wrestle with sleep like before. I don't fall asleep right away, but I feel calmer. And then sleep just sort of happens. See? When we can't control the mind, we can begin by relaxing into the breath. Biologically speaking, when you breathe slowly and evenly, especially when your exhale is longer than your inhale, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your body that says, you're safe. You can let go now. It slows your heart rate, lowers blood pressure, reduces stress hormones, and prepares your body for deep rest, including sleep. Spiritually speaking, the Buddha taught in the Anapanasati Sutta, the sutra on mindfulness of breathing. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Breathing in deeply, I know it is a deep breath. Breathing out slowly, I know it is a slow breath. That's it. No fancy theory, no high-tech tools. Just returning to yourself one breath at a time. So I want you to imagine this. You're lying in bed. The light is soft. The pillow is gentle beneath you. You place a hand on your belly and begin to breathe in through your nose, slowly, until your belly gently rises. Then breathe out, long and easy, as if releasing your worries into the air around you. Repeat that a few times. No rush, no pressure to get it right. Just be with your breath. Gradually, you'll feel yourself sinking into a stillness, not because you fell asleep, but because you stopped resisting rest. A meditation teacher once said, "If you can't stop your thoughts, let your breath be the gatekeeper of your mind." And I believe that, because breath never lies to you. It's been with you since your first moment in this world, and it'll stay until your last. So tonight, if you find yourself lying awake again, I hope you won't scold yourself. Don't try to force sleep like it owes you something. Invite it through your breath. Whisper to yourself, "I am breathing," and that is enough. You don't need anything more. There's no exercise more powerful than simply being here with yourself, gently, kindly, and at ease. Because sometimes what you truly need isn't just sleep. It's a moment of peace where you don't have to try so hard, and your breath is the path that can take you there. I know there are people, especially those in their 52nd, 62nd, or 72nd, who feel guilty about resting. They've spent a lifetime caring for others, working without pause, and living in a world that constantly whispers, "Do more, get it done, push harder." And then, when night falls, their bodies are exhausted, their minds are heavy, but they still quietly scold themselves. "I didn't do enough today. Is it lazy to lie down like this?" Have you ever felt that way? If you have, I want to say something to you slowly, gently, and with all the compassion I have. Resting is not weakness. It is not laziness. It is a spiritual practice, subtle, silent, and necessary. I'm not talking about giving up or collapsing into fatigue. I'm talking about conscious rest as an act of wisdom. Resting with the understanding that I am creating space for my body to restore, for my mind to cleanse, and for the burdens of my karma to settle. For older adults, sleep is no longer just a physical need. It becomes a sacred return to who you truly are, without the roles and expectations society once placed upon you. When you lie down at night, you are no longer the mother who must stay strong, no longer the husband who must provide, no longer the father carrying the world. You are simply a human being worthy of restoration. In the Buddhist Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha said, "Just as the great earth embraces all clean and dirty, fragrant and foul without judgment, so too should the mindful heart embrace this body without criticism." And I believe that sleep is one way we embrace ourselves, without judgment, without pressure. I once met an elderly woman in her 82nd who lived alone, but never went to bed early. I asked, "Why not sleep early to take care of your health?" She replied, "I feel like I haven't done anything useful today. If I go to bed too soon, it feels like I've wasted the day." I held her hand and said, "Sleep isn't a waste. It's the way you continue to live kindly tomorrow. No lamp can keep burning without being refueled." You see, many of us were taught that our worth comes from what we can do. But in Buddhist wisdom, our value isn't only in action, it's also in how we show up mindfully. And sleep, when entered with gratitude, surrender, and softness, becomes a form of deep meditation. Unconscious meditation. Letting go meditation. Imagine this with me. Each night before bed, you take a few moments to thank your body for carrying you through another day. You whisper, "Thank you, feet, for standing strong. Thank you, hands, for taking care of what needed to be done. Thank you, heart, for beating steadily. Then you breathe gently. Close your eyes and say, "Tonight, I don't need to carry anything more. I offer this body to breath and to sleep like a sacred act of renewal." That's it. But if you do this consistently night after night, you may find that sleep no longer feels like an escape from exhaustion, but like a ritual of reverence. Reverence for the body, reverence for the heart, reverence for the unseen layers of karma quietly waiting to be purified in silence. And scientifically, did you know this? When you enter deep sleep, your brain begins to cleanse itself. It removes toxins, restores memory, balances emotion, and resets your energy. I call that meditating in the dark. You don't have to do anything, yet transformation happens from within. And the beautiful part is, you don't have to do sleep well. You just have to give yourself to it with trust and gratitude. If you're staying up late, thinking you haven't done enough, let me gently remind you with all sincerity, you have done enough, and you deserve to rest. Sleep doesn't take anything away from you. It simply gives you back to yourself. Tonight, before you close your eyes, you might try saying something like, "I enter sleep not to escape life, but to return to it more deeply nourished." Then just breathe, and let the soft light of rest wrap gently around you. I want to ask you something really simple. Have you ever been lying in bed late at night, and suddenly your mind starts asking all these questions you didn't invite? Did I do the right thing? Will tomorrow be okay? What if that happens? What will I do? And then you start thinking, searching, digging, scrambling to find answers right now. Even though the clock says midnight, even though your body is tired, your mind is still debating with itself. Have you ever felt that way? I believe you have. Because many people I've met, especially those who live alone or are older, have shared with me, during the day I'm fine, but when night falls, all the thoughts rush in at once. A Buddhist friend, in her 62nd, once told me, "I feel so calm during the day, but when night comes, I turn into someone else. I worry, I remember, I imagine all kinds of things, and I can't stop." I listened quietly, and then shared something with her that I'd like to share with you tonight. Not every thought needs an answer at night. Really. Some things can and should wait until morning. You see, night is meant for letting go, for quiet, for healing. But we've accidentally turned it into a kind of secret meeting, a late-night boardroom for all our anxious parts to gather and demand solutions. They throw problems at you and say, "Fix this now." But I want you to imagine this. You're the owner of a peaceful home. It's late. You're about to sleep. And suddenly, a group of strangers starts banging on your door, asking you to sign contracts, answer emails, explain your past, predict the future. Would you open the door? Probably not. You'd say, "I'll see you in the morning. Right now, it's time to rest." Your mind is the same. It may knock with worries about your children, about unfinished stories from 10 years ago. And you have every right to gently say, "This can wait until tomorrow." I'm not telling you to suppress or ignore your feelings. I'm inviting you to set them down just for now, like putting down a heavy backpack before you take a break. Because here's the truth. Many of the things we stress about at night look completely different in the daylight. You know why? Because at night, both your body and your mind are tired. Everything feels bigger, messier, darker in the shadows. That's why people used to say, "Sleep on it," or in old wisdom, "Big decisions are better made in the morning." From a Buddhist perspective, the Buddha once said, "The mind is like a drum. The more you strike it, the louder it rings. But when you stop, It becomes still. Night is the time to stop striking. You don't need to analyze. You don't need to solve. You just need to breathe, to be here, and to remember, you don't have to fix your whole life in one night. I remember an old friend telling me, I started sleeping better once I learned a little mantra. I just whisper to myself, this can wait until morning. That's all. And somehow, I find peace. Maybe you could try that tonight. When a thought comes, instead of resisting it or trying to solve it, just smile and say, hello, I see you, but I don't need you right now. I'll meet you again in the morning. And then, let your breath lead you. Let your body rest. Let your mind soften. Sleep is not the place to win a Nobel Prize in problem solving. Sleep is where the mind stops struggling and the body comes home. So if tonight a thought knocks on your door again, try not to react. Just take a small step back and whisper to yourself, this can wait until morning. Then take a gentle breath and let the night do its quiet work, like a silent friend, holding you in healing. I want you to imagine something really simple. You're holding a cup of tea. That cup is already full right to the brim. And then someone comes along, offering to pour in more warm, fragrant, soothing tea, something you truly need. But the cup is full. Not a single drop more can go in, unless you pour some out first. Our minds are like that too. If your heart is already overflowing with worries, regrets, plans, and things that no longer belong to today, how can peace possibly find its way in? How can you fall into restful sleep if your mind feels like a dusty attic cluttered with old, forgotten boxes? Have you ever been there? You lie down, the lights are off, but your thoughts whisper, who do I need to call tomorrow? I shouldn't have said that last year. What if my health never improves? And it's not that your body isn't tired, it's that your mind isn't empty. A Zen master once told a story. A man came to him asking to learn meditation. He spoke non-stop about what he already knew, what he had tried, what he hoped to achieve. The master simply poured him a cup of tea. When the cup was full, the master kept pouring. Tea overflowed. The man cried, "What are you doing? It's spilling!" The master smiled. Your mind is like this cup. How can I pour anything in if you don't first empty it? I love that story. Because it's not just about meditation, it's about every night we lie down with a mind that's too full. You don't have to erase every thought, but you can gently pour some out. I once told a Buddhist friend in her 70s, before you sleep, close your eyes and imagine you're holding a teacup. Inside that cup is everything you're carrying: worries about your children, loneliness, fear of illness, memories of your late husband. With each breath out, I asked her to imagine gently pouring out one drop at a time, not throwing it away, just releasing enough to make space for quiet. A week later, she came back and said, I still carry some of those things, but I feel like I can breathe more, and I'm sleeping better. You see, so many people think sleep is just about turning off the lights and closing your eyes. But true rest doesn't come from darkness, it comes from space. Not emptiness, but the absence of overwhelming clutter. Tonight, I invite you to try something simple. Before bed, sit quietly for a few minutes. Take a piece of paper, not for a to-do list, but to gently name what's been filling your cup. Just a few words. Worried about my health? Hurt that my son hasn't called? Tired of feeling unseen? Writing it down is a way of pouring out. Or even simpler, just sit and breathe. And with every exhale, imagine setting one thing down. I'll set this aside, it can wait. I'm letting a bit of this worry leave my heart now. You don't have to fix everything. Just lighten the load. Because really no one enjoys tea from a cup filled with old residue. And no one can fall into deep sleep with a mind still packed and noisy. From a Buddhist lens, sleep isn't just rest. It's a time when karmic energy reorganizes itself. It's when the subconscious cleans house after a long day. And if you enter that space with a mind that's just a little more spacious, a little less burdened, your sleep becomes a kind of silent prayer, leading you back to clarity. Tonight, I hope you'll look into the teacup of your heart and ask, is it too full? If it is, let something go. Not because you have to be empty to deserve rest, but because you deserve a peaceful night, one filled not with mental noise, but with the gentle silence that reminds you, you are allowed to rest, you are allowed to breathe, and yes, you are worthy of peace. I want to invite you to pause and consider something simple, something many people tend to forget. Are you truly resting enough on your journey of mindful living? That might sound like a strange question at first. Some might respond, isn't mindfulness about being active, intentional, fully awake in life? Why bring up rest? But here's the truth. You can't truly be awake unless you've learned how to truly rest. I'm not talking about the kind of rest that's an escape. And I don't mean giving up or checking out. I'm talking about deep rest, rest that's full of presence, gratitude, and the wisdom to know that resting is part of the path. An older Buddhist friend once shared with me, a bit sheepishly, sometimes I feel lazy. By late afternoon, I just want a nap. But my friends are out chanting, reading scriptures, listening to Dharma talks. I feel like I'm not diligent enough. I looked at her and gently said, being diligent doesn't mean being busy all the time. Sometimes, the deepest diligence is knowing when to stop. She went quiet and then slowly nodded. You see, even the Buddha, after enlightenment, didn't become a non-stop doer. He meditated, walked mindfully, taught the Dharma, and he rested. One time, Ananda asked him, Lord Buddha, why do you still rest, even though your mind is already at peace? And the Buddha smiled and said, because rest is part of peace. Isn't that beautiful? Even someone fully awakened didn't choose the path of endless striving. He lived in harmony with effort and surrender, with discipline and renewal. Let me offer you this image. You're paddling a boat across a long, wide river. If you stop paddling, you'll drift. But if you paddle non-stop, without pause, you'll burn out. And worse, you might lose your way. The most skillful rowers aren't the ones who move the fastest. They're the ones who know when to stop, to let their muscles recover, to let their heartbeat return to rhythm, to reorient their direction. The journey of spiritual practice of mindful living is no different. It can't be about constant forward motion. It can't always be about learning more, doing more, fixing more. Sometimes, being most awake means doing absolutely nothing. I once worked with a retired college professor. He wanted to learn mindful breathing. He kept taking notes, setting timers, scheduling his sessions, and he'd often ask me, am I doing it right? Am I progressing fast enough? I told him, pause all of that. Just sit. Don't do anything. Just breathe and recognize that you're alive. A week later, he returned, laughing. I never knew doing nothing could be this hard. But I also never knew it could feel this light. Have you ever felt that? Like you had to keep doing more, understanding more, trying harder just to feel worthy, just to feel you're doing enough? But the truth is, even the soil needs time to rest after a harvest. Even the heart needs quiet between each beat. Rest doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're being renewed. It allows the mind to soften after long days of tension. It gives you a chance to really hear the quietest voice inside. So tonight, if you find yourself weary, not just in body, but in spirit, I want you to know this. You are allowed to rest. And more than that, you need to rest. Not because you're weak, but because you're walking a long road and no one can keep walking forever without stopping to breathe, to listen, and to close their eyes in stillness. Being awake doesn't mean keeping the light on all the time. It means knowing when to shine and when to let yourself soak in the gentle darkness that heals. And sleep, in its own quiet way, can be a sacred practice. A silent ritual of healing when you stop struggling, stop pushing, and simply surrender to your breath, to the night, to the deep, quiet return to yourself. I want you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine a peaceful scene. You're standing by a quiet river. Night has fallen. There's no more noise, just the soft whisper of the wind and moonlight dancing gently on the surface of the water. In your hands, you're holding a small paper lantern with a single candle glowing inside. You lower it slowly and release it onto the water. It rocks slightly and then begins to float, gently, quietly, further and further away. Now I want you to imagine each lantern you release holds one of your worries, something you can't control, something unanswered, a memory that still haunts you, a feeling that no one has ever truly heard. You place it inside the lantern, and you let it go. Not because you're ignoring it, not because you're running away, but because you're choosing to release it with grace and with trust. An elderly Buddhist once told me, "I keep holding everything in because I'm afraid if I let go, everything will fall apart." I paused for a moment and gently asked, "Have you ever released a lantern onto the water before?" She nodded, smiling softly. "Yes, when I was a child. It was beautiful and light." I said, "Then why not try that in your heart? Release just one worry, like a paper lantern. Let it drift with the current of life, gently, but still glowing." You see, we don't have to carry everything. We don't have to solve it all in one night. We don't need to be perfect to deserve peace. Sometimes, just letting go of one thing is enough to lighten the whole heart. In some Buddhist traditions, lanterns are floated down rivers to honor the departed. But to me, each night can become its own kind of lantern ceremony for the things we haven't been able to release. I want you to imagine this. You're sitting quietly, alone in your room. You write down everything that's been weighing on you. Each line on the page becomes a paper lantern, and you lift it gently in your mind. Set it down on the river and whisper, "I see you, I acknowledge you, but I don't have to carry you into my sleep tonight." Even just imagining this can shift something deep inside. You're no longer the one haunted by your burdens. You become the one who chooses to release them with kindness. Psychologists call this symbolic letting go when we use imagery or ritual to help the mind move from holding on to letting go. In Buddhism, it's called letting go of attachment, of clinging of ego. Both lead to the same place, a quiet relief deep within. I know there are things in your life that can't be changed. I know some wounds haven't healed, some worries still linger. But I also know you can release just a part of it tonight. And even that is enough. So tonight, before you sleep, I invite you to try something. Place your hand over your heart. Close your eyes. And picture yourself standing before your own river. Take one thing that's been heavy and place it inside an imaginary lantern. Then let it go. With your exhale. With a gentle phrase like, "I allow this to drift away as something from the past. I don't need to carry it through the night." You can release as many lanterns as you need. No rush. Each one is a small act of surrender. Each one is a quiet forgiveness for yourself. And then you may begin to notice your mind becoming like water after the wind has passed, still, light, glowing softly with the gentle lights you've set free. Because sleep doesn't come from forcing everything to be okay. It comes in the moment. You let go of something, and in return, that something lets go of you, bringing you home to yourself. Tonight, I want you to try something small, just a little thing, but it could change the quality of your entire sleep. Say one simple sentence to yourself right before you close your eyes. Not as a prayer, not to convince yourself of anything, but as a gentle way to signal to your mind, you've done enough, and now it's time to rest. Have you ever felt that even after turning off the lights, lying down, and taking a deep breath, your mind just keeps going? As if there's a voice inside you whispering, "That thing's not done yet. You didn't say that the right way. You should have done better." Our mind doesn't know when to stop, unless we tell it. And sometimes, just one soft phrase repeated gently can bring the mind into a space of rest. I call this your sleep mantra. It doesn't need to be long. It doesn't need to be religious. It just needs to be honest, something that feels true to your heart. For example, I did my best today. I give myself permission to rest. This is the time to lay everything down. I don't need to be perfect to be at peace. I've done enough. Now, I get to rest. Whichever sentence makes you feel soft inside, that's your mantra. An elderly Buddhist once shared with me, I used to stress over every little thing. I couldn't sleep for weeks. Then one night I heard your teaching. Speak to your mind like you would comfort a child. So now every night I say, that's enough for today, sweetheart. Let's think again tomorrow. At first I felt silly, but strangely, my heart started to feel calm. I smiled, because that is mindfulness in real life. Not just sitting on a cushion, not just chanting mantras, but learning to be present with our own minds even at bedtime. The Buddha once said, the mind is like a monkey jumping from branch to branch. Only mindfulness can make it sit still. Your mantra becomes that final branch, where the monkey finally rests. Let me offer you a picture. Your mind is like a computer that's been running all day. If you don't shut it down properly, it keeps running in the background. Your mantra is the shutdown button, a gentle signal that says, day's over. Let's pause. Let the mind rest. Neuroscience even confirms this. When you repeat a calming phrase while breathing slowly, you activate the part of the brain linked to safety and relaxation. This helps your body release serotonin and melatonin, two key chemicals for deep sleep. In other words, the right words can open the door to peace. And I know, some people have spent their whole lives only hearing a critical voice inside. You're not enough. You messed up again. You have to try harder. Even at night, that voice keeps pushing. But I want to invite you to try something different. Tonight, be the kindest friend you've ever had to yourself. Before you close your eyes, place your hand on your heart and whisper a sentence that's gentle and deeply human. I did the best I could. I'm not perfect, but I deserve to rest. I'm still learning. I don't need all the answers tonight. I breathe out and I let go. I've done enough. Now I get to rest. Repeat it a few times. And with each repetition, you may feel a little weight lift off your shoulders. You don't have to push your way to peace. Sometimes, you just have to allow yourself to pause at the right moment. And maybe, just maybe, a single sentence before bed could be the most beautiful prayer you say for a whole new tomorrow. Tonight, I want to invite you to try something very simple, but also surprisingly deep. It's not a long meditation. It's not a complicated ritual. It's just a question. A simple question, but if you ask it at the right moment, it might just open the door to the inner peace you've been searching for all these years. And the question is, what can I let go of tonight, if only for now? Sounds simple, right? But here's the thing. Even asking that question sincerely is already a practice of letting go. And in Buddhism, letting go is one of the most powerful teachings. I want you to imagine this. You're standing by a quiet river. In your arms, you're holding a heavy backpack filled with unresolved worries, unanswered questions, tangled relationships, and responsibilities that sit on your shoulders. You know, you can't throw the whole thing away, but maybe you could set it down for a while. Right there beside the river. Just for a moment. Just long enough for your shoulders to breathe. Asking, what can I let go of tonight? That's the moment you set the backpack down. You're not discarding anything. You're simply giving yourself permission not to carry it right now. An elderly Buddhist once told me, every night I used to carry everything into bed. Worries about my children, the world, even strangers on the news. One night, my heart was racing. My body was drained, and I didn't even know why. So I asked myself, what can I let go of tonight? And I whispered, I let go of the fear of tomorrow. That was it. But that night, I slept better than I had in years. I smiled when I heard that, because that is what real-life meditation looks like. You don't have to sit cross-legged. You don't need bells or incense. Sometimes all it takes is the right question and a heart that's ready to soften. The Buddha once said, the one who knows how to let go is the one who truly knows how to live. Not because they don't care, but because they understand that not everything needs to be carried into sleep. In Buddhism, sleep is seen as a sacred time, a chance to restore your body, your mind, even your karma. But if you fall asleep clutching resentment, stress, and pressure, your mind never gets to rest. What if, just before sleep, you asked, can I leave this for tomorrow? Then the mind begins to learn the art of living lightly. Have you ever had this experience? You lay awake one night, replaying an unfinished conversation over and over. But the next morning, when your mind is calmer, you realize, oh, maybe that wasn't such a big deal after all. That clarity, that wisdom, it came not from thinking more, but from resting. But to get there, you have to set your burdens down. And sometimes, letting go starts not with an action, but with a question that gently opens a door inside you. Hey, love, you don't have to think about this right now. That problem doesn't need solving tonight. Let's give ourselves a little lightness. I once guided a woman who was caring for her dying mother. She was exhausted but wouldn't let herself rest. I said to her, tonight, before bed, just ask yourself, what can I let go of just for 5 minutes? She broke down in tears because it was the first time she realized no one was forcing her to carry it all the time. She had simply forgotten to ask. Science supports this too. Writing down your worries or asking yourself, what can wait, actually calms the brain's stress center. When you say, I'll think about this in the morning, your brain stops looping and you fall asleep easier. Simple, but powerful. Soft, but healing. So tonight, before you close your eyes, just ask, what can I let go of tonight, even if only for now? It might be something small, a moment of frustration, a lingering expectation, a fear with no answer yet. Look at it gently and say, I'll come back to you another time, but tonight I choose rest. Letting go isn't abandoning responsibility. It's giving your heart room to breathe, so that when morning comes, you return to your life with clearer eyes, lighter shoulders, and a quieter soul. I want to invite you to see sleep from a completely new perspective. Not as rest so you can work harder tomorrow. Not as pause now to solve your problems in the morning, but as something deeper, a lesson in meditation, quiet and profound, called the meditation of doing nothing. And the beautiful part is, you don't need to try to learn it. You just need to sleep. I know in our modern world, doing nothing can almost feel like a sin. We're conditioned to keep striving, always fixing something, chasing a goal, becoming someone. Even during rest, people say, I'm resting so I can recharge for the next thing. But have you ever just felt tired? Not just your body, but the kind of tired that lives in your heart? Tired of having to be something all the time? Tired of trying to become instead of simply being? I want you to imagine this. You're lying in a field of soft grass under a night sky. No one's calling your name. No one needs you to fix anything. No one is waiting for you to prove yourself. You just get to be there like a drifting cloud. No pressure to be right. No effort to be good. No need to do anything. That is the heart of the meditation of doing nothing. A state the Buddha described as letting go of all grasping and returning to your natural wholeness. A Buddhist practitioner once shared with me almost apologetically, every time I meditate, I try so hard to focus on my breath, to do it right. But the more I try, the more exhausted I feel. I'm scared I'm not good at meditation. I smiled and told her, you haven't yet learned one of the most important meditations, the practice of letting go of trying. You don't need to do anything. Just be present. No fixing, no forcing. That is the deepest kind of meditation. And I believe sleep is one of the easiest places to practice this. Because when your eyes close, you step out of the world of roles. You're no longer a parent or a worker or the one carrying everything. You return to a simple state of existence. No job description. No performance. Just you. Science tells us that sleep restores the nervous system and balances the mind. But for those on the spiritual path, sleep can be a sacred space, a silent temple, a place where the mind learns not to fight, not to cling, not to control. Like a river flowing through open hands. You don't hold it. You don't redirect it. You just let it pass. The mind is like that too. When you stop trying to shape it, it softens. And that is meditation. Have you ever noticed that the more you try to sleep, the harder it becomes? The more you think, I need to fall asleep so I can feel better tomorrow. The more you lie awake, that's because sleep doesn't come through willpower. It arrives when effort falls away. When we surrender, just like meditation, the more you try to reach stillness, the more restless you feel. But when you drop the striving, stillness finds you. The Buddha didn't only teach meditation on a cushion. He taught it through every breath, every step, and even in rest. He once told the monks, there is a time to strive and a time to simply be. Wisdom is knowing the difference. And I believe a wise person is not just someone who knows how to do, but someone who knows how to not do at the right time. So tonight, before you sleep, I ask you to try something gentle. Don't try to relax. Don't try to let go. Don't try to be anything at all. Just whisper to yourself, right now, I don't need to become anyone. I only need to be as I am. No need to understand the mind. No need to reach deep insight. Just let go of the idea that you need to achieve something. And in that letting go, you are meditating, not in a formal way, not with bells or chants, but in a simple, honest, sacred way. I share this not as a rule or doctrine, but as someone who has carried years of pressure and striving and finally learned. A peaceful mind is not the mind that performs best, but the one that knows when to stop. And sometimes the deepest lesson comes when we let go of it all and fall asleep, like a leaf drifting gently to the ground. There's a small habit, just one simple habit, that can change the entire quality of your life. And no, I'm not talking about going to the gym, meditating for 60 minutes, or doing anything grand. I'm just talking about one sentence. Just one quiet sentence you whisper to yourself the moment you open your eyes in the morning. I've been given the gift of another day. Today, may I live with love and clarity. That's it. Simple words. But if you sit with them, really sit with them, there's a quiet awakening inside. Imagine this. You wake up in the morning. There's no blaring alarm. You're not reaching for your phone, scrolling through notifications, or running through your to-do list. Instead, there's a pause, a breath of stillness. And in that sacred pause, you say softly to yourself, "Today I get to live again." Not everyone gets that chance. Many people went to sleep last night and never woke up. So the moment your eyes open, that moment is not a given. It's a gift. A woman once told me, after surviving a severe illness, every time I open my eyes and I'm still breathing, I feel like I've hit the lottery. Then she laughed and said, "It doesn't make me rich, but it makes me grateful. It makes me happy every single day." That story stayed with me because it reminded me, life isn't just a checklist. It's an opportunity to love, to understand, to simply be one more day. In Buddhism, we call this practice mindfulness at the start of the day. No need for rituals or elaborate prayers. Just one sentence to gently bring your heart back home. As the Buddha once said, "A single day lived with awareness is more precious than 100 years lived in forgetfulness." And that morning sentence, it's not just a line. It's a compass. May I choose love, not reaction. May I choose clarity, not confusion. It's like a quiet anchor, so you don't get swept away by the busyness that's waiting just outside your bedroom door. I don't know how you usually start your day, but I've met many people who wake up straight into hurry mode. Coffee, news, emails, racing around the house. And before they even realize it, they're caught in a wave, not knowing where it began or where it's going. Have you ever felt that? I'm not here to say you're wrong. I'm just inviting you to try something small. Begin your morning with a pause, a breath, a quiet intention. You don't need to believe in religion. Just believe in the power of your own mind when it begins the day with gratitude. Recent research shows that people who start their morning with even 30 seconds of gratitude experience lower stress, better focus, and less emotional reactivity throughout the day. That's not superstition. That's psychological wisdom, something the Buddha understood thousands of years ago. I once led a retreat for seniors in California. A woman raised her hand and asked me, "But what do we pray for at this age? We just stay home. There's nothing special to wish for." I smiled and said, "If you're still breathing, you can still love. If it's morning, you can still be kind. If you're alive, you can still let go, just a little more than yesterday." So you see, a morning intention isn't about asking for more. It's about honoring what already island and becoming, even just slightly, a little gentler, a little wiser. I don't expect you to memorize any fancy mantra. I just hope you give yourself one honest moment each morning to say, I'm not in a rush. I'm not lacking. I just want to live this one day with presence. That's the most beautiful way to begin, whether you're 30 or 70. I want to begin with a story you've probably heard before, but every time it's told, it carries a kind of quiet wisdom that makes people pause and reflect. It's the story of the bowstring. If you pull it too tight, it snaps. But if it's too loose, it won't make a sound. The ancients used that image to speak about the art of living. And today I'd like to borrow it to talk about the art of sleeping. Because sleep, when you look deeply, is actually a practice of balance. Have you ever laid down, turned off the lights, closed your eyes, but your mind kept spinning like a machine that won't shut down? Some nights people lie there for hours, body tired, eyes closed while their mind keeps working, counting money, running through problems, replaying yesterday, worrying about tomorrow. An elderly Buddhist practitioner once told me, "My head is like a radio without an off switch. The more exhausted I am, the louder it gets. The more I try to sleep, the more awake I feel." I understand that feeling. I too once lived with a mind pulled too tight without knowing how to release it. It wasn't until I got seriously ill and had to spend time in the hospital that I realized sleep isn't just about the body, it's about the mind. True rest comes when the mind knows how to let go at the right moment. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught, "The one who is moderate in eating, in behavior, and in rest lives in peace." That word moderation sounds simple, but living it is an art. We are constantly taught to push, strive, hustle, win. But few ever teach us when to pause, when to loosen, when to trust in letting go. Imagine this for a moment. A person pulls back the string of a bow to shoot. They need strength, but also sensitivity. Because if they strain too hard, the string snaps. If they hesitate, the arrow won't fly. Sleep is the same. You can't force yourself to sleep. Sleep isn't something you do. It's something you allow. There's an old saying, "A day well lived brings a night of deep rest." But if your days are filled with chasing, stress, competition, and noise, your body may be tired, but your mind will not be at peace. Sleep becomes a mirror of the spirit. A calm mind sleeps deeply. A restless mind sleeps heavy. A letting go mind wakes up feeling clear, light, and refreshed. I once asked a group of seniors in a retreat, "What makes it hardest for you to sleep?" One said, "Too many thoughts." Another said, "Worries about my children." Someone else shared, "This nagging feeling that I haven't done enough." And just like that, you see, it's not the bed that's keeping us awake. It's the mind. A mind that doesn't feel enough. A mind that hasn't been soothed. A mind that hasn't learned what not to carry into sleep. That's when I told them the story of the bowstring again. If you've done your best during the day, then at night, what you need most is to loosen, to rest. And if you can't loosen eventually, something breaks. Not just mentally, but physically. Your nervous system, your heart, your clarity, the next morning they all suffer. Even science now says the same. Without deep sleep, the brain doesn't have time to clear out emotional and hormonal debris. The residue of stress, anxiety, and fatigue just piles up day after day. And as we age, sleep isn't about escaping life. It's about restoring life force. I'm not here to give you a formula, but I invite you to try this. See sleep as a spiritual practice, a practice of balance, Not straining, but not drifting either. Not forcing sleep, but not surrendering to anxiety. Each night, before you lie down, ask yourself, is my mind tonight pulled too tight or too loose? Have I been gentle enough with myself? I share this story not just for you to think about, but in the hope that tonight you'll close your eyes with a soft smile and quietly say, I've done enough today. Now I give myself permission to rest. I don't need to control anymore. I just need to let go and restore. And maybe, just maybe, sleep will no longer feel like a struggle, but like a quiet lesson in the beautiful art of balance. If you're still here, listening all the way to the very end, then I believe there's a part of you that's genuinely searching for peace. Not out there in the world, but right here, within your own heart. Maybe you've been through sleepless nights. Maybe you've carried exhaustion through days that never allowed you to stop. Maybe you've spent a lifetime caring for others. And somewhere along the way, forgot to ask yourself, am I living true to my own heart? But today, if even just one sentence in this video made you breathe a little deeper, feel a little lighter, then that, my friend, is already a transformation. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. You only need to change the way you touch your own soul. With gentleness, with mindfulness, and with a deep gratitude for the simple gift of being alive. And if something in this message speaks to you, I invite you to walk this journey with us. Buddhism Seeds isn't here to preach or teach. It's simply here to remind you softly that within you, there's still a seed of peace, just waiting to be watered. So, subscribe if this feels like a place you'd want to return to when life feels too heavy. Click like if there was even a single moment that made you feel seen. Share this with someone you care about, someone who might need a little stillness today. And please, leave a comment so I know you're there, so you know you're not alone on this path. We'll meet again in future videos filled with quiet wisdom and gentle reminders on how to live awake in a world that so often pulls us to sleep. Thank you truly from the bottom of my heart.